Alphabet Man, tearing down the strongholds, exposing the darkness, wrecking the enemy's plans. Endurance till the end. It's time for the Alphabet Man Live.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Wow, we have a pretty special guest this morning, and I'm blessed just to have finally met her. And I've talked about her situation for quite a few times just on the show alone, and I learned of her situation, and I was appalled that in a kindergarten class, the teacher was reading transgender books, and then the teacher had a little boy go into the bathroom and change into a dress. And then when he came out, he was announced as a little girl with a new girl name. And this little boy was the friend of a precious little girl. And that little girl went home to her mom and she cried. And she was frightened that she was going to turn into a boy, just like her friend turned into a little girl. And of course, the school lied about what happened, and they said that the parents were just overly concerned. But if this little girl was traumatized, how many other kindergarten students were traumatized? So we're going to introduce the mother of this little girl, and we're going to introduce her as Susan, because she is very involved in making sure people know and advocating for the children. Because we all know that the next, that the LGBT movement, this political dark mass, is laying or has laid the foundation for the pedophile movement. And no, I'm not saying that all homosexuals are pedophiles, but what I am saying is that all homosexuals are victims of the pedophile movement in some way, shape, or form. Okay, and I know that from my own personal life experience, as well as all of those that I'm in contact with and have been in contact with and have befriended, even when I lived in that darkness. So with that said, let's welcome Susan. And Susan, first I wanted to ask you, well, for you to introduce yourself, but recently the state proposed, California, I call it California, they recently proposed a new health framework that would teach gender identity in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go?
Oh, hi. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here and to meet you. I took a break from this fight for about a year because it was very difficult and emotional. But I got back in this fight because I read through this new health framework that it's basically what the Department of Education kind of hires a committee. They elect a committee to write this framework, and it's for all the health classes in the state of California. And this health framework is taken to the book companies, and then that's what they create new health books for all the classes. So I was reading through, and I found out that in kindergarten they begin to teach children to challenge their gender identity, and they introduce books like My Princess Boy, which is a book about a little boy that likes to dress like a princess. And the words discuss gender with kindergartners by exploring gender stereotypes and asking open-ended questions such as what are preferred colors, toys, and activities for boys, girls, and then challenge stereotypes if presented. And, you know, I started reading through this and I was just so, I was a little terrified because I know how this affects children when this is introduced, especially to 5-year-olds, and they're not emotionally ready to learn about these topics because they're not concrete thinkers yet. And, you know, that's what I experienced with my daughter is, you know, she saw her little friend go in the bathroom and change clothes and come out, and she thought, oh my gosh, that's all that has to happen for me to change into a boy.
Lord have mercy.
Which was why she was so terrified. And, you know, she was not the only one that experienced trauma. There were little boys that wouldn't go in the bathroom anymore because they thought if I go in the bathroom, I'm going to turn into a girl. There's a little girl that she was crying in the car with her dad and said, Daddy, is my blood going to turn into boy blood? Another little boy wouldn't touch his sister's clothing because he thought if I touch my sister's clothes, I'm going to turn into a girl. Children had to go to counseling because they were so fearful of what happened. So 5-year-olds should not learn this.
No, any child should not learn this, but 5 years old, I mean, come on now. And see, it takes me to the website, to the Drag Queen Story Hour website, where they openly admit their target audience is 3 to 8-year-olds. Yeah. Because they're most impressionable at that age. So, I mean, that's like blunt and bold and in your face. And when they want to start reading books like My Princess Boy and Who Are You? Yeah. And these books that teach all these different genders, made up, fake, false genders, and they're so, the definitions are so ignorant that because we know ignorance is not bliss, ignorance is bondage. And so the definitions of all these genders, even on the Glisten website, one contradicts the next, you know, and so they're constantly contradictive of one another. And so in California, now see, I was under the impression, and I've even spoke about it, how the governor wants all school age children to visually see homosexual sex. And that, I mean, what do you know about that? And what, I mean, because I know that, you know, they want to introduce the graphic books that teach about sex in 3rd grade.
Yes.
You know, and so
and
what are we going to do if our children are looking at homosexual sex visually, and then they're getting ready to go into puberty with their hormones raging and wanting to be curious and experiment, and I mean, what is this leading up to?
Well, you know, there's a principle of first mention, and that is whatever children learn for the first time, it becomes like a foundation for them.
Amen.
And it's very difficult to uproot that foundation and put a new one in place. And so I feel that they are trying to teach children so young, and they're presenting these books that are visual books because, I mean, we're commanded to guard our eyes and to guard our heart. And so when this stuff is visually presented to them, like in this book, Changing You, that they introduce in 3rd grade, that has like pornographic pictures of grown body parts, and it talks about sex and the act of sex, and it shows male and female, like fully developed organs. That is going to be, for a visual person, that is the first thing that they're going to see about sex. They're going to be thinking about it. They're going to be learning that it's okay to think about it. They're learning about masturbation. They're learning about sexual feelings and how it's okay to have those feelings towards the opposite sex, towards the same sex. They're learning these concrete things like their truth. Like they are concrete, and they're learning. My teacher is a trusted adult. I need to trust everything that they teach me. And so this is very dangerous because a lot of parents are not thinking, I need to talk to my 6-year-old about sex and about homosexuality and about what I feel is right and wrong and about my worldview. They're not thinking about that. And so they're going to be learning it first. They're going to be learning it in their school. They're going to be learning, I can be one of these 15 genders that this book says. I can be two-spirit, third gender, bi-gender. I mean, most parents don't even know what that means. And so these children are being exposed to these very adult topics and these very sexual topics when they're so young that parents it's not even on your radar to think about it or to introduce it. And so what's happening is they're laying this foundation of what they believe is truth, and they're perverting these little children, and it's really hard to come in. I mean, with the power of God, you can uproot those foundations, but
Right.
it's difficult to do that. These things will stay with them.
So on March 28th, they had a rally.
Yeah.
And gosh, I don't know anything about it, sadly. I have not had the time to put into the research on it, but can you like give me an idea of what actually took place, how it's going to affect the children
Sure.
as of now, or has it been postponed? Is there anything that the public can do? Is there anything that we can do to put it out there for the public to get involved?
So we're involved with a movement called Informed Parents of California. They have a Facebook page, and they have like 14,000 parents on there now, specifically for the comprehensive sexual education bill that was passed in California in 2015. And so all these parents are struggling with, their children are being taught anal sex, their children are being taught
What is the
about
name of the organization again? Sorry.
Informed Parents of California.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And so these parents have they've facilitated this forum for parents to talk about what's happening to their children in public schools. And so they organized this rally specifically for the Quality Commission, who wrote this framework. And so I would say about 800 to 1,000 parents came to the Capitol to protest the comprehensive sexual education and the framework. And over 210 parents spoke directly to the commission. We were all allowed 1 minute to speak. And so we all spoke and begged them to change this. I talked about the 3rd grade sex book and how there's no language of telling parents that they're going to introduce sex to 8 and 9-year-olds. And they disregarded every comment from the parents, and they passed the framework right afterwards.
Wow.
So the framework now goes to the Department of Education. They're going to vote on it in May. And if they vote on this in May, it now becomes the new health standards for the state of California.
Wow. And no opt-out allowed.
Well, the opt-out is really a tricky thing, because with the Healthy Youth Act, the Comprehensive Sexual Education, they removed gender identity and body parts, like who are you, princess, boy, all these things that can be taught in school legally. However, they can notify you and they can allow you to opt out, but schools are being pressured by the LGBTQ community organizations to not allow that, because they say that it enforces bullying. So with the health framework, with health classes, education code says you can opt out if it goes against your religion, your religious beliefs, but they've intertwined the comprehensive sexual education material into the health framework. And so it's really unclear if you can opt out or if you can't, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So just from my research in the last year or so, I have seen that I've seen how California may like even within the last say 7 years, okay, they spent many years making it more difficult to homeschool,
Mm-hmm.
and then introduced the LGBT studies and curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, don't people see the the deception? Don't they see how it worked? Don't they see that the state, that this movement, this political movement, has first made it next to impossible to homeschool, um, and then introduced all of these things that they ultimately don't want anyone to be able to opt their child out of. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, they want your child to be sexualized, to receive this information. They want this information to be your child's first truth. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so and I'm looking at and showing. I don't know if you see it on your screen, but
Yeah.
everyone watching can see the California Family Council, the CaliforniaFamily.org website, and they have down here, it says Keller interviews rally speakers Ken Williams and Elizabeth Woning with Equipped to Love.
Yeah, they're
Now,
amazing.
they came out of the LGBT movement, did they not?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and wow, they got some powerful testimonies.
Yeah.
So this is what's needed, people. We need more people who are going to stand up, step out, get out into the public. You know, very much like in the pre-show when we were talking, I gave a little praise because I was able to with um with the young man Jay that was set free from homosexuality, the one that I met at the LGBT parade last year, and just invested and discipled, and because that's what we're called to do. Our commission is twofold: evangelize, disciple. If we're not going to disciple, don't go evangelize. And
Yeah.
then you can't go evangelize and disciple, you know, from a distance, or put it on somebody else. If you're not going to disciple, don't evangelize. So in spending the time with him, he's now ready to start preparing himself to actually be able to step up and speak out
That's
and
amazing.
actually get out there, get into play. He wants to become a part of the ministry. And there's a couple young men in Ohio, um, a couple, you know, that want to experience this freedom in its full effect. Because even for me, it took going on 9 years or going
Yeah.
on 10 years to actually receive and get to the place where the Lord wanted me to be at, to receive that full freedom, that complete freedom, and to be able to recognize that
Mm-hmm.
I never had an attraction for men, but I had a natural desire for intimacy, which God placed in me. And so for me to desire that intimacy with other men, of course, and see, this goes right back to how they're indoctrinating the children. I was brainwashed, I was indoctrinated to believe that desire I had for intimacy was an attraction. And so, of course, if
Mm.
it is an attraction, it must be romantic and or sexual. So that automatically makes me believe that I am, one, same-sex attracted, which I never was. I had a natural desire that God placed in me
Mm-hmm.
for intimacy with other men, especially the boys that have it, that don't have a father in their lives or don't have a good father in their lives. You know, their need, their desire for intimacy is even greater because they don't have it and they don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
automatically we recognize it as an attraction, and so it has to be romantic and sexual, and thus leading us astray. You know, even, I mean, I'm going on 10 years of being made free, and it took me over 9 years to really get it. and get what it was, and that it wasn't an attraction, that it was a desire for intimacy. So, I mean, this should be our child's first truth. This should be our child's first truth, that God created us as half of one whole, and that he also placed these characteristics or these natures inside of us to desire intimacy one with another. You know, much like our DNA. You know, our DNA, it can't be changed. It can't be altered. You're either male or you are female. There is nothing in between, nothing beyond them. And sex is gender. You know, also just like our heterosexual design. We're all heterosexual by design. All homosexuals are heterosexual. All pedophiles are heterosexual. All liars, cheaters, thieves, etc. are heterosexual, because it's by design. We cannot change that design. God didn't make a mistake. God didn't make us to be able to choose that. He gave us free will to choose sin. So when we choose homosexuality, we're choosing sin. We're not choosing a sexual orientation, because we are heterosexual by design. And I think, you know, these are the things that should be our children's first truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have a deep desire to be wanted, and a deep desire to have intimacy with our Father in heaven. That's what we were created to do, to have
Yes.
that father-daughter, father-son relationship with him.
Yes.
And when we don't have that, we seek that in other places. We seek that in the world. We seek that in people. We seek to fill those desires of our soul with other things. And those can never be satisfied if we do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. He's
Amen.
the
And
only
you know
one
why
that
it's
can
so important
satisfy.
what you said there? It's so important what you said, Susan, because that's why the church is asleep. That's why the church is sleeping. It's because we go to the mall and we see signs for intimate apparel. All of the intimate apparel tells us that we're going to engage in sexual activity if we wear it. So, and then we have God, who wants to have an intimate relationship with us, but subconsciously in our minds, we already believe intimacy is sex. So we keep God at arm's length because we don't want to have sex with God, because we don't understand intimacy and what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I want you to tell us what we can do, and
Okay.
what we can do.
Well, we Informed Parents of California started a petition. It came up on that Facebook page. We, one of the women, along with a couple senators, have proposed a bill that's an amendment to the California Healthy Youth Act, which would actually offer protections for elementary students. So it's an amendment. It's going to be heard on April 24th. And it basically says that if you're going to teach comprehensive sexual education in elementary school, it has to be an opt-in process for parents. It cannot be a passive opt-out, because the state of California wants schools to teach comprehensive sexual education. That means information taught in 7th and 12th grade. They want that taught in kindergarten. They want that taught to second graders. They are asking schools to teach it. They are telling schools to no longer separate boys and girls when teaching sexual education. They are teaching that gender is non-binary, and that is a scientific fact. They are teaching all of this stuff. So this bill would make it an opt-in process for parents, and would also preserve parental rights and give parents a little more oversight in what the school is teaching. The school would have to put their curriculum online for parents to be able to review it. So that's a really important thing that's coming up. We have to have tons of people come to the Capitol to come to that hearing and support that bill. It would be an incredible step forward if that were to pass. It would be also a miracle, because California, as you know, is run by Democrats, and they are pushing this agenda. But it shouldn't be difficult to say, I mean, we're not asking for a lot.
Right. You see this, folks? Change.org, Stop California Public School Indoctrination, support SB 673, which amends AB 329 CHYA.
Yeah.
Go to the website, go to their Facebook page, click on the link for the petition, sign the petition. Hey guys and ladies, if you are in California, I mean, you could sign this petition from anywhere. Am I not? Am I correct?
Right.
Yeah, you could sign the petition from anywhere. But if you are in California, they need you.
Yes.
They need you to show up. They need you to show up at the state capitol. They need you to get involved. And if you want to protect your children and your grandchildren from the hands of this dark political movement, from these predators who are trying to sexualize them so that they can choose their own gender. And if they can choose their own gender, then they can choose their own sex partner regardless of his age. So you need to get involved if you want to do anything at all. I suggest you get onto to their website. It is californiafamily.org. California Family. Get onto their website and sign this petition. Get involved.
Yes.
And if you're not in California, share it. Share the petition. Share the link. Share the information. Share it with everybody.
Yeah, because as you know, the Equality Act was just proposed, and the Equality Act would be a federal law. It would be countrywide, and the exact same things that are happening in California would begin to happen in every state in the United States. So this is not isolated to California. We need to pray. We need to seek God and ask Him to send revival, and ask Him to send His Holy Spirit to protect and save everybody.
Yes, yes, yes. Because all of the people that we see trapped in this movement are victims of this movement. And they are not only forgivable, but they are in need of forgiveness. And, you know, there was a time when the ACLU was a good thing. But now look, ACLU pushes early erotic child development in California public schools.
And they helped write this.
Wow.
Them and Planned Parenthood, they helped write this framework.
Wow. Planned Parenthood, the ones that want to kill your children, and the ACLU, the ones that want to sexualize your children, are the ones that are writing these bills and these frameworks and these developmental progressive. Oh, I'm sickened. I am. I get. Susan, anything that you want to say? We're getting ready to sign off.
And I just want to encourage the church to love the way that Jesus has commanded us to love, and to not have hate. Don't have hate in your heart for people that are different than you and are believing the things of the world.
Amen.
But stay in a place of compassion and love and forgiveness, because that's what these people need. And we need to be the hands and feet of Jesus. This is not a time for us to fall into hate or bigotry, because I really don't believe that that's what most Christians think of people that are in the LGBTQ community. I just think that we need to have a better way of communicating the love of Christ.
Amen. And you know what? We can't get mad at people for acting lost when they're lost. You know, we can't hate people for not knowing the truth when we're not bringing them the truth. We're not evangelizing and discipling. The scriptures tell us constantly, love is obedience. And so if you want to bring the truth in love, you better be prepared to bring it in obedience, exactly as Jesus commissioned us to bring it. And that's in truth and in obedience.
Amen.
So, hey guys, Susan, I want to thank you for joining us this morning, and hopefully we can have you back on. with any
Yes. Thank you
updates
for having
and
me.
ongoing, anything that's, you know, going to be ongoing. Hey guys, listen.
Oh,
19 is next weekend. Next weekend, Occupy 19. I believe it's next weekend. No, in 10 days. All right. The 12th through the 14th, Occupy 2019. If you can get there, get there. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be equipping and equipping people to send them out into the world to hopefully introduce people to Jesus through word, through deed, and through action. Hey, God bless you all. Love you all. Have a blessed
amen.
day. Peace.
Thank